As 30 years ago, today we have a Renault Scenic that claims to reinvent what a family car ought to be. Today's Scenic E-Tech Electric isn't so much of an MPV, instead it's an EV less restricted by the shackles of the crossover genre pursued by its rivals, but with the fashion sense, the practicality and the price tag to appeal to a mass market.
The original 90s Scenic was actually first called the Megane Scenic, and that was a reference to the fact that all the mechanicals there were shared with that Renault hatch, and that's largely the case here too. Now predictably, the Scenic E-Tech Electric uses the same CMF EV platform as its Megane E-Tech stablemate and the Nissan Ariya actually, and in base form what looks like the same 60 kWh comfort range battery too, although Renault claims that the lithium-ion cells in use here use different, denser LG Chem nickel manganese cobalt technology, which ought to make that entry model's claimed 261 mile range a bit more achievable than the pie in the sky WLTP stat claimed by the Megane. The base Scenic variant's 170 horsepower electric motor, though, is only just about enough to push along 1,757 kilos of Gallic real estate. The stats say 62 miles an hour in 8.6 seconds en route to 93 miles an hour. And that's another reason why nearly all Scenic customers will prefer the 87 kilowatt hour long range battery model that we're trying here today. Here there is about 100 kilos more weight, but that's more than compensated for by an increase in electric motor output to 220 horsepower. It's a front-mounted motor, and like most of its rivals, this Renault can't be had in any kind of dual motor form. And when you engage the most urgent of the four provided multi-sense drive modes, that's red-themed sport, the 62 miles an hour sprint time improves to 7.9 seconds, and the top speed rises to just under 106 miles an hour. Steering wheel paddles allow you to adjust between 4 levels of brake regeneration, with the fiercest setting noticeably slowing the car off throttle, and that's ideal for keeping the battery energized in urban use and for keeping you somewhere near to the claimed and very class competitive actually 379 mile range figure. Town travel is where you can benefit from Renault's decision to offer a choice of 3 pedestrian warning sound formats. You'll probably stick to the quite appealing Jean-Michel Jarre curated sound option. This long range version charges at up to 150 kilowatts, and that means a 15 to 80% replenishment in 37 minutes. 15 to 80% 7.4 kilowatt AC wallbox charge, that would need 8 hours 27 minutes. What exactly is this car? Well, not even Renault seems to quite know. Because the Scenic E-Tech has a long bonnet and lacks high wheel gaps, you can see it's deliberately trying not to be an SUV, more of a kind of cross between a hatchback and an SUV, but with the kind of interior space of an MPV, thanks to a longer wheelbase length than most models of this size. The styling from ex-Peugeot designer Gilles Vidal draws on the company's new visual language. Now that means curvy bodywork, high-tech design elements and sharp character lines. Once you take a seat behind the wheel, you'll note the SUV-like raised driving position and the way that the angled center console cocoons you into a drive position predictably dominated by the open-R digital cockpit twin screen arrangement we first saw on the Megane E-Tech. As with that car, this is a sustainability zone, stripped of leather with surfaces like this unusual fascia fabric fashioned from recycled plastic bottles. No shortage of stylistic efforts gone into this design. The center console doesn't meet the center stack, giving a pleasingly spacious front of cabin vibe, and you get this odd hexagonally shaped vegan trimmed 3-spoke wheel with its thin gear selector stalk angled up behind. Also contributing to the trendy vibe are the strange slashed graphics on the 12.3-inch instrument screen, which changes colour based on your multi-sense drive mode selection from this circular button just beneath the right-hand wheel spoke. Everything else you need to know, of course, can be found on this big 12-inch open-R portrait-style centre infotainment monitor, which Renault boasts can feature more than 50 apps. This model's MPV roots are referenced by the prodigious levels of cabin storage. There's 38.7 litres of it in total, including a big 4-litre glove box, along with deep flock-lined door bins and a large 3.4-litre compartment under that sliding centre armrest. What will really appeal to families though is the amount of space in the rear, where thanks to 2,784mm of wheelbase, there's 278mm of legroom and 884mm of headspace. Two 6-footers will have plenty of room to stretch out, and even a third centre-seated adult won't have too many compromises in headroom or in leg space, thanks to this bespoke EV platform's flat floor. Renault's included what it calls an ingenious rear armrest, which has 3.6 litres of storage, a pair of USB-C ports and two cup holders with fold-out stands that enable occupants to watch screens on their devices more comfortably. It's back here too that you'll get the most benefit if your Scenic has been fitted with this solar bay panoramic glass roof, which, when it's not opaque, provides for an airier vibe. The powered tailgate arises to reveal a 545-litre boot. With everything flattened, it is a bit of an uneven space and it's heavily stepped, so sliding in really heavy items might be difficult. Still, the area provided is very large, up to 1,670 litres in size. Lots of boxes have been ticked by this stylish Gallic contender for drive range, innovation, media tech and practicality, although the designers ought to have allowed for a 7-seat Model 2. Well, the brand talks of positioning the Scenic E-Tech Electric in the vanguard of what it calls phase 2 of the battery car revolution, EV adoption for the masses. Well, that's not going to happen with a car of this price, but the company's secondary objective, which is to make a car that doesn't force people into compromising, looks as though it may have been met here. And in that respect, at least, this model is a true Scenic.